learning the basics, which is how all of us got started in this, and then experimenting and pushing the creative limits is the secret sauce of mosaic making. In today's video, I'll take you by the hand and guide you through the exact process that I go through every time I create a new mosaic. Think of it as your own personal checklist for every time you're ready to create. Let's get to it. Welcome back, and if you're new here, my name is Julie. And on this channel, we discuss tips, tricks, tools, adhesives, materials, and specific mosaic projects, all to shorten your learning curve when it comes to creating mosaic art. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, please consider subscribing. So you want to make a mosaic, but you aren't quite sure where to begin. I get that. Mosaics can originate from so many different starting places. Maybe you have a design in mind, or a really cool substrate, or some interesting materials, or perhaps somebody has asked you to create a piece. It's sort of like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? So where do you begin? I know that learning and creating a mosaic can seem a bit overwhelming because there's so many things to consider. Things such as, how do the tools work? Which materials work better with certain substrates? How do you mix up thin set mortar? What adhesive works best with which substrate? Do I need to prep my substrate? There's so much to keep in mind. So much of mosaic is about learning the basics. What makes for a good substrate? What are the adhesive options? What can I use as my material? How do I mix up thin set mortar? And so on. And then you experiment. You find your style. You find your aesthetic. You learn what you like and what you're comfortable with. I'm here to help you learn, give you the information, and then watch you run with it. I might talk about a particular adhesive that once you try it, you're not so jazzed about it and you find something that works better for you. And that's okay. Learning the basics, which is how all of us got started in this, and then experimenting and pushing the creative limits is the secret sauce of mosaic making. The checklist we're about to go over is to help you make decisions about your mosaic making before you even start. It's a safeguard, if you will, to make sure that the mosaic that you're about to spend a lot of time and energy, maybe some tears and some money on, will last for many, mucho years. And as you continue to make more mosaic pieces, you'll start to see that you don't have to reference this checklist anymore, because things are going to start to come naturally for you. You're going to think about these things every time you approach a mosaic project. And you want to stay till the end, where I share with you my personal advice from experience on what I did when I first got started in mosaic. So let's get started. This is the exact list of questions that I go over every time I'm about to plan or start a mosaic piece. Keep in mind that some of these questions might happen simultaneously, which is why I earlier referenced what came first, the chicken or the egg. But understand that the first few questions are equally important and are in no particular order. So to start, what's your design? Is it something specific or more abstract? Is it large scale or more on the smaller side? Can it be applied to different size substrates, or are you locked into a particular size? Can your design be adapted to mosaic? Sometimes a design might look great on paper, and then when you try to tile it, it doesn't have that same feel or vibe like it did on paper. Do you own the design? Is it original? Are the exact colors critical to your piece, or do you have a little wiggle room? The next question is really two questions. It's a two-parter. What substrate will you be using, and is your preferred substrate acceptable for where it will be displayed? For example, wood substrates shouldn't be kept outdoors. Does the substrate need to be prepped before tiling can begin? Will your mosaic be hung on a wall? I prefer to attach the hanging hardware first to the substrate before I even start tiling. Is your substrate easily accessible, or will you need to special order it? Are you creating a mosaic that will be installed, or will you be handing it over to someone else for final installation? What are their requirements? Next up are your materials, or your tessera, which includes your ceramic, stone, glass, mirror, found objects. Or are you creating a mixed media piece? Are any of your materials two-dimensional or sharp? Will your mosaic be displayed where people can get close to it? If so, you'll want to make sure that your materials are not vulnerable to getting broken or hurting someone. Are your materials expensive, hard to find, a special order, or difficult to work with? Will your mosaic be displayed outdoors? And if so, are your materials suitable for harsher weather conditions? Once you've decided on your design, your substrate, where it will be displayed, and your material choice, next you need to think about tools. Do you know what tools work best with the tessera of your choice? Are they easy to find and purchase? You'll definitely want to buy the tool or tools necessary for the tessera you've decided to use. It's not only the proper way to do mosaic, but it's also going to make the process easier for you, more enjoyable, and it's going to go smoother. Next, we're going to talk about adhesive, or the glue for your tessera. How will your beautiful, amazing, and inspiring design adhere to the substrate? Which sort of takes us back to, what is your substrate, where will it be displayed, and what are your materials? For example, if you're making a glass-on-glass mosaic, you probably want an adhesive that dries clear. If you're making a mosaic for outdoors, you're going to want to use a 4-5 thin set. Next up is grout. And not all mosaic pieces require grout. It really depends on the materials you're using. But if your mosaic does require grout, a fortified version ensures flexibility, longevity, and keeps your color fresh. I sound like I'm talking about hair dye. For more flexibility, long-lasting, fresh color, use fortified. Oh boy. One of the last things I consider is, what's the timeline of the piece? If you're making a piece for somebody else, you're going to want to get on the same page with them to make sure your delivery date is one that you can stick to and one that they're happy with. If you're using anything that is special order, like your tessera, your substrate, specific grout color, then you're going to want to factor all of those things into your timeline. And for some of you, you may not have a timeline because you're creating a piece just for you. Most of the work I do here in the studio does come with a timeline, which I don't mind, but really it's personal preference. 20 plus years ago, I fell in love with the mosaic making process when I was making my very first mosaic. I'm talking head over heels, living, breathing, thinking about mosaic non-stop, to the point where I was working on mosaic every waking hour that I wasn't at my daytime job in magazine publishing. So I started to buy materials, adhesives, substrates, tools. I wanted to do everything all at once. And what happened was I got overwhelmed, because I didn't know where to start. I had so much stuff that I really wanted to use, but I had no guidance. So the problem with that is, not only do you suffer from overwhelm like I did, but also all that stuff has got to be stored somewhere. All of this behind me is tessera and substrates and adhesives. This is 20 years plus worth. This is just one wall. I've got a wall here. I've got an entire wall along one of my studio walls here, full of substrates and materials and adhesives. Yes, it is nice having these things at my fingertips, but it also needs to be stored. We're not talking about storing feathers here. So my advice to you, is to start small. I know it's not what you want to hear, but just bear with me here, okay? Start small. If there's a project you want to get started on, buy the tools, the substrate, the material, the adhesives, and the grout for that. You might not even like Mosaic. Perish the thought. So don't go and buy all the things until you've done that first project. But remember, you may work with some materials on your first project that you don't want to work with again. Don't swear off Mosaic because of one project. If you like the process but you don't like the materials, don't ever work with those materials again. Find different materials, but don't give up on it. I want you to hang in there. And I've got one other thing that's really going to help you. If there are multiple projects that you want to do, much like me when I was first starting out, I had so many ideas and I wanted to do all the things, and so I bought and gathered all the stuff for all of those projects. Problem is, there's only one of me. So I didn't need all of that stuff initially because there's just one of me. And honestly, at the time I was working full-time in magazine publishing, so I didn't have a whole work day to devote to mosaics. What I would suggest for you is if there are multiple projects you want to work on, start a list in your phone, your computer, pen and paper. Start a list. What's the design? What are the special materials? Did you locate some materials online that you would like to order later? What's your substrate? What's your adhesive and your grout? Are you going to grout it a specific way? List all of those little details that you can think of for that project and put it in a safe place. And then when you're ready to dive into that project, then you have all of that information. It's easily accessible. You can start ordering whatever it is that you need and gathering your materials together. And then you've got your project ready to go. Over time, you might gather a bunch of materials like this. Maybe not, but this comes with time. And don't buy until you've decided you like to do mosaic and you're ready for the next project. Save your money, save your energy in actually buying, and I know how the hamster can get on the wheel. So just concentrate, start small, master those basics. Remember I was talking about the basics earlier. Master the basics and then experiment and push those creative limits. Question of the day. Let me know in the comments, what was your first mosaic? Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up as it really does help my channel, and subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell notification so you never miss a single upload, and let me know in the comments if there's something you'd like me to cover in a future video. I'll see you soon. Bye. And boom. Adhesive. Materials? Options. Material. Adhesive options. Wow, I can't believe I just said all of that in one take. And we're back. That second one was better. I said, mirror, found objects. That one right there, that was a good one. If you're looking for more mosaic inspiration, you can check out one of these two videos. Until then, see ya. Okay, I think that's a wrap.